Chicago Bears Family Fest was yesterday, and we're going to be talking about the takeaways and standouts from Family Fest and why Ben Johnson has one major problem with this offense that he's going to obsess about getting correct. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off with the positive, right? Let's start off with talking about the players that really stood out the most in Practice 10, aka Family Fest with the Chicago Bears. And one of the guys that definitely stood out that I think is important that we need to talk about is Gervon Dexter. Gervon Dexter, we got more to talk about some of the veterans there, but Gervon Dexter had himself a big day yesterday. According to Alex Shapiro, he went out on it and he played really great in that one, that he made arguably the best play, the defensive play of the day as well, when he got DeAndre Swift in the end zone when it came down to it. That's when the offense was pinned against their own end zone. He got past Drew Dahlman and stopped Swift dead in his tracks that was there, and that's really good. You need that interior play, from the defensive line to help, of course, Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo, who we got a little bit more on Dayo, going forward when it comes down to it. So shout out to Gervon Dexter for getting a safety call in that by pinning the offense down in their end zone. But outside of that, some of the same people that we've talked a lot about. Coaston Loveland and Cole Kmet both had themselves a day yesterday. And that's really important. While you have some Bears fans that are trying to replace Cole Kmet with Coaston Loveland, as it stands right now, especially with the 12 personnel set, which means we're going to see a lot of two tight end sets, this is nothing but opens up the weaponry for Caleb Williams and helps dumb down things a little bit for him as well. Those quick throws, that's going to be a real big opportunity in those 12 personnel sets when it comes down to it. And so Coaston Loveland, since being, cleared to go, has really had himself a number of really good practices when it came down to it. And now Coaston Loveland did that in front of over 20,000 fans at Soldier Field when it came down to it. He ran up 5 yards, and he put Jaquan Brisker reportedly on skates with a cut on the inside where it came down to that. Caleb Williams placed a perfect pass for him as well for a touchdown to Coaston Loveland when it came to that. And we've heard really good things about the chemistry between Caleb Williams and Coaston Loveland. And that's what you want to see continue if you're the Chicago Bears. You want that to continue. And so that's really good to hear about. And Cole Kmet has been Cole Kmet. And I think under a Ben Johnson system, you're going to see a lot better from Cole Kmet than we saw last year under Shane Waldron and that idiotic play calling when it comes down to it. And that's really good. You want those things there. You want both these guys fired in all cylinders. Let the contracts worry about the contracts when it comes down to it, but stop trying to take weapons away from a team that is trying to compete and hopefully is aiming to be able to compete for at least a wild card spot next year. And so hearing that Coaston Loveland, Cole Kmet, both been weapons out there, have both really taken well to the design by Ben Johnson, and that you can already see the scheming that he's doing with this guys. And keep in mind, one of Cole Kmet's plays as well came with Kyle Monangai as the lead blocker, which we've heard a lot of positive things about Kyle Monangai as well, as far as him standing out yesterday in Family Fest as well, him making some big plays. You're starting to see his big playmaking ability. And I tell you what, while I was a doubter, not on Kyle Monangai overall, but I was a doubter on how far he can make it up the depth chart just in training camp. And I tell you what, from what we're hearing, if half of that holds true into the regular season, it's going to be hard to keep Kyle Monangai off the field for the Chicago Bears, because he does it blocking, he does it running, he does it between the tackles, on the outside, right? I'm not here to say he's any type of perfect running back at all, but I'm saying that he brings that big playmaking ability that you want out of your backfield. And if you're talking about somebody who has a chance to break away and make something out of nothing, Kyle Monangai seems to be that guy, not only in the running game, but even doing it a little bit with his blocking ability. And that's something that really stood out in Kyle Monangai's tape, as well as his ability to block despite his stature, despite all of that. He's strong. He's like a bowling ball. It's hard to get that young man down, and so it's really good to see him. Tyson Bagent also had himself a hell of a night. and the chemistry with him and JP Richardson as well, who Richardson who keeps turning. At this point, I would be surprised if JP Richardson is not above Tyler Scott on the depth chart. I just would be extremely surprised by that. We've seen him do it in every facet of the game, basically. Has JP Richardson and Tyson Bagent, those passes to JP Richardson. He had another tight end to Durham Smythe as well. When it came down to it, he fooled the defense on a play action pass, according to Brad Biggs. And so, hey, it seems like Bagent has had himself a nice camp, and that expect to see him a lot in the preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. Expect to see Bagent out there a lot. But overall, there were some really good moments, and I think JP Richardson putting himself in a position where he really shined as well in front of the Bears fans there in attendance at Family Fest Day. And you just love JP Richardson, man. He's going to be an opportunity to be a playmaker. You talk about finding a way to put the ball in the hands of playmakers. His ability to return kicks, his ability to be a wide receiver, line up in the slot, line up in the outside, a really good route runner when it comes down to it as well. Hey, he didn't generate a lot of buzz out of TCU, but I tell you what, JP Richardson is a guy that has really done basically everything in his power to get himself a roster spot after being an undrafted free agent, and I take my hat off to him for that. I love guys who come into camp ready to work and put on their hat. Like, this is just what Chicago's built on, and JP Richardson, he's outworking the competition right now. If you're talking about somebody who's trying to, between him and Tyler Scott, and who's trying to make that final spot as a wide receiver on that roster, like, JP Richardson is outworking everybody. Of course, I'm not talking about Rome Odunze and DJ Moore or even Luther Burden, but outside of those guys, you got to think about it. He's right there. Miles Boykin ahead of Tyler Scott potentially as well. Like, we'll see what JP Richardson does, man. I really hope that he ends up making this team, because I see that this kid has the ability to make some plays, man. And you just need guys who can make plays like that, period. One of the things as well that has kind of gone quiet so far in training camp is apparently how good Grady Jarrett has been. Brad Biggs saying this. Grady Jarrett was just checking to the backfield, was just in the backfield off the snap, almost as Caleb was handing the ball off to Roschon Johnson. Somebody else also saying that they were asked about Dayo Odeyingbo, and Matt Zahn said this: I haven't specifically watched him too much. It's hard to see everything in camp with no access to their film. That being said, I haven't noticed him, talking about Dayo Odeyingbo, much of an impact yet, unlike Grady Jarrett and Montez Sweat. And then Scott Bair saying this: your Bulls camp report is dropped, documenting the team's first camp practice in pads, including Grady Jarrett was a dominant force. So, listen, I know a lot of people have their doubts about Grady Jarrett. It seems like he's beat Drew Dahlman in some snaps as well in one-on-one drills, that he is looking at like to be a disruptive playmaker on that defensive line for the Bears, and you need that guy. And so maybe at this point, and you got to keep in mind sometimes that players, especially when they're in the same situation, they're veterans, sometimes you need to be reinvigorated. And I think some of the doubt around how good Grady Jarrett can still be maybe reinvigorated him some. I mean, he's still going to be out there with a veteran like Montez Sweat. We know that there are some unproven players elsewhere on that defensive line, but hearing that Grady Jarrett has been so far in camp a force to be reckoned with, that's what you want, because that's going to help free up Montez Sweat. That's going to help Gervon Dexter take another step. You want Gervon Dexter learning behind everything Grady Jarrett does. So, and we'll talk about the Dayo Odeyingbo part of it, because there is some doubts when it comes down to that. But I mean, when you're looking at the defensive front for the Chicago Bears, like, you got Grady Jarrett, Gervon Dexter, Montez Sweat, Dayo Odeyingbo, you got Andrew Billings behind Gervon Dexter and Grady Jarrett as well. Like, all those things there, the presence that Grady Jarrett is bringing to this defensive line is being felt. And, you want to get those guys in gear. Now, the flip side of that, in that same thing, somebody saying that Dayo Odeyingbo hasn't stood out yet. Now, how concerning is that? Dayo Odeyingbo was one of those acquisitions that we've talked about. Dennis Allen wanted him here. And, that is a big reason to believe that there's at least, a plan for Dayo Odeyingbo here. But the fact that he's not standing out yet, how concerning is that going to be to some Bears fans? I've said it before, Dayo's job is I don't want to say it's easy, but when you look at it, his job is to bring enough pressure to where they don't feel like they can double team Montez Sweat every down. Now that's basically everybody's job on the defensive line. You have to bring enough pressure from the other spots to where defenses can't just double team Montez Sweat. And so great Dayo with his ability of size and speed, and even looking at, like I said, what he's done as a depth piece other places, there is enough to believe that this is a guy that can bring enough of it, but we just haven't seen it yet in practice. And that could be focusing on other things. That could be, whatever it is when you look down at it. But this is a guy that has had 8 sack seasons, 5 sack seasons, right? And so he's been productive. And I'll tell you this, if Dayo can bring 4 sacks on that opposite side and consistent pressure, that may be enough to help Montez Sweat, free up Montez Sweat enough. And then you got Grady Jarrett there, you got Gervon Dexter. But, it's a little bit of a concern because you want to hear that the guy that you spent a lot of money, and keep in mind, I think he's making over $20 million in year 2, something like that. You don't pay that guy to just be completely quiet, right? You need to get something on the return on investment there. And we'll see if the Bears do that. But, I know that there are going to be some people that ask about that, and there are going to be some people that are concerned about it. And we'll just continue monitoring it here and see where it goes. We're going to cover everything no matter what happens here. But yeah, let me know how you guys feel about that. Now, with that said, I started off and opened this episode talking about one of the things that I know Ben Johnson is going to obsess about fixing with this offense so far, and that's the pre-snap penalties. It was a thing yesterday in Family Fest. It was a thing at the opening of training camp. It was a thing with Luther Burden, and you have to get that together. You have to. It's part of what you look at as a cohesive offense is when you eliminate pre-snap penalties. Now, there are going to be some there, right? But I think the fact that it was evident in the scrimmage that is Family Fest is that there's a little bit of it. We heard that Caleb Williams committed 3 delay of game penalties during the 2-hour practice as well. And we know that Ben Johnson, he addressed the delay of game penalties, and he is not playing about the Bears needing to fix that. Ben Johnson saying this, yeah, it's something that we're going to have to address for sure. It showed up more today than it has in practice. This was more like a real game. And if it continues like that, we're not going to win many games. Again, we're not going to win many games. That's how serious Ben Johnson is taking this. And I don't know if other Bears coaching staffs would have honestly taken it that as seriously as what Ben Johnson is right now. But that goes back to this coaching staff wanting to set a standard of how the Chicago Bears play football. They want to have a standard of this is what we do as Chicago Bears. This is what it's going to have to be for us to execute at the level that we need to do to win. And so Ben Johnson is definitely frustrated by it. And you can tell that that's something that he has been, on top of since the practices started. He said this, execution of the play wasn't what we wanted it to be. It's a credit to the defense. They came out and they kicked the offense rear in that. So that's what showed up to me. They wanted it a little bit more. And you don't want to hear that, right? Like if you're Ben Johnson and this is your offense, you're still calling plays, you do not want to feel like your offense is not bringing it to match the intensity of the defense. And I tell you what, it's not going to cut it out there when you get in regular games either. So, that is a thing that we need to get. Now, I know that there's a lot that, that's what training camp is for. So I'm not in any way saying we need to hugely panic about this. Let's see what it looks like on Sunday against the Dolphins. And if it's as evident there as it was at Family Fest, then it's going to be some times to start getting a little bit frustrated about it when it comes down to it, right? But it's just, you're going to have to adjust. And we'll see what the Chicago Bears end up doing, in that area. But I tell you what, Ben Johnson's frustrated about it. Bears fans should be a little frustrated about it, but they got still time to correct it. So we're not going to act like it's all doom and gloom quite yet. There's time to still fix these things. And that's what the coaching staff is here for. And we'll see if they can get it done. But you're talking about what the coaching staff is here to do. I've been telling you guys so much about how Dennis Allen is going to change the reputation, the play style, and the intensity of this defense. It was 3rd and goal at the 7-yard line, and Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker came on a double safety blitz. We didn't see a lot of that at all when it came to Matt Eberflus's defense, right? And this just goes to show you again, that's the exact type of play, right, that throws teams off because you don't run a double safety blitz at the 7-yard line very often. But this is how Dennis Allen is going to bring identity to the Chicago Bears defense. This is going to be another one of those Bears defenses that is tough as a motherfucker and is going to be difficult to come in every single day and execute at the level that's needed to beat the Chicago Bears on defense. And that's what you love to see. Dennis Allen is not, I told you guys, the blitz percentage is going to go up like crazy, but it's not just about blitzing in the traditional ways. Dennis Allen is going to get creative. He's going to throw some stuff that teams are going to look at and say, can you believe they just did that? Now, some of that you may get burnt on. You take the good with the bad. But Dennis Allen showing that he has the need and desire to be as creative what he is at Family Fest of all things just goes to show this ain't finna be easy. It's not about to be easy to beat the Chicago Bears on defense next year. You're gonna have to think about what the Bears are doing, and that's something that we haven't had a whole lot here, and so that's really good to see. So yeah, that between the offensive line, Ozzie Trapilo again gets another start with the starting unit. I would not be surprised if whoever starts Miami against Miami on Sunday, that's probably going to be your official starter on the defensive end position. I would not be surprised with that at all. I think that's the way that it looks like it's shaping up. We'll see how Ben Johnson continues to handle it, but overall, Ozzie Trapilo continues to get those minutes with starters. And it's not to say that Kieran or Braxton have looked bad either. It just it feels like right now, Ozzie Trapilo is probably going to get that nod, but that doesn't mean that it's for sure. We'll end up seeing what happens there, but let me know what you guys think on that down below. All right, Mondays for Overflow, I've yapped a lot, so we only got time for one voicemail. We got two other ones I want to get into. We'll probably get into those tomorrow, but this voicemail, this one's from Darius.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. Just wanted to call in real quick. I know Hayes be talking about me calling in too much, but hey, I got friends, man. Y'all are my friends, colored boy. Y'all my favorite friends. So yeah, man. Yeah, brother, I'm out here in Dallas, of course, so I hear all the news about the Cowboys, whether I like it or not. For the past year, I've been talking about Micah Parsons, and he has finally decided that he wants to request a trade. They're doing a lot of stupid shit. They re-signed, Jake Ferguson, a mediocre tight end, gave him his money, told Micah Parsons to go to hell, I guess. So, Jerry's stubborn. It's probably going to be a holdout situation, and it'll be to the point where Micah won't get traded probably until like week 2 or 3. But I'll say this, man, adding that guy there, we're going to the Super Bowl. I don't care about keeping my expectations regulated, none of that shit. We add that guy right there, Super Bowl. I was just talking to Key about this, man. I remember the impact that Mac had on that team. When we got him in 2018, and we went from a top 10 defense to the best defense in the league, just from adding that one player. So, and then you have Dennis Allen, who is going to be creative with a guy like Micah Parsons. If you watch him when he plays for the Cowboys, he can blitz from anywhere in that front seven. I've even seen him line up at nose tackle before and still got penetration. So you're looking at a guy where you add Micah Parsons, you cannot double team anybody on our front seven. You have to play everybody straight up. If you want to double team Micah, you're going to give Montez one-on-one the whole game. I don't think that'd be a good idea, along with Grady Jarrett and all those guys coming up the middle. So I don't feel like we have as many holes on this defense anymore. And I don't mind giving up draft picks, for a guy that can take our defense to the number 1 unit in the league. I think that's going to give Caleb a little less pressure, because we're going to be getting the takeaways. We're going to be putting him in good field position. His confidence is not going to be, fuck, if I don't come out and ball, we're going to lose. He's going to know that he's not the determining factor of a win or a loss. He'll be able to play a little bit more free. He'll be able to make mistakes because he knows that when the other team gets the ball back, they're going 3 and out. He's going to be right back out there. Don't underestimate the confidence that a Super Bowl caliber defense can give a young quarterback. And I just feel like at some point, Foles, we need you to take a big swing at this, man. And I feel like if we do that, we're not only winning the NFC North, I think we're going to be a top 2 or 3 team in the NFC. And I think we're going to be on the road to the Super Bowl, man. So let me know what you think. Take us up, bear down.
I'm going to agree with you wholeheartedly there, brother. If the Bears make a move for Micah Parsons, that tells me at minimum you're aiming for the NFC title. That's at minimum. You are trying to be the best team in the NFC, because Micah Parsons does have that type of gravity as a player. Completely agree with you. He has that type of gravity. He is that type of player. You put that in a system with Dennis Allen, as you said, who already likes to get creative all over the place. Micah Parsons would be like almost a positionless player on defense. That's how many different areas that he will use Micah Parsons in. I don't think a trade is going to happen. I don't think so. But if it were to happen, best believe it would be a signal that the Chicago Bears aren't just being happy being a team that's coming in and trying to win some football games. That tells me that they are trying to transform this team into a contender in 1 year. That's what it tells me. That's the level of player that Micah Parsons is. And and for anybody who's watched this guy, and even when the stats don't necessarily show up in some games, you see Micah Parsons and the way that his gravity alone opens up so much for his teammates. It opens up so much for the defense. And like I said, I know I just said it, a guy like Dennis Allen, who's the schemer that Dennis Allen is, man, does that change some shit for the Chicago Bears. So, hey, I don't expect it to happen. If it does happen, I'm going to be one of the guys sitting here celebrating the hell out of it, because if the Bears make a move for Micah Parsons, it's going to cost a lot, but the return on that investment you expect to be a lot as well. And that's why I don't think Jerry Jones has already come out, basically said they aren't going to be honoring his trade request. So this is something that's going to press on. Micah's going to have to hold out to get it done, as you alluded to, or it may not happen until later down the road. So, we'll see what happens there. But man, if you can get Micah Parsons, bruh, that changes a lot for the Bears. But all right, that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.